Chosen one, listen carefully, because what you are sensing right now is not imagination, not ego, and not coincidence. There comes a moment when Allah elevates a servant so quietly, so completely, that those who thrive in secrecy feel it before the world ever sees it. Plans begin to fail without explanation. Influence stops working on you. Words that once controlled you suddenly lose their power. This is the moment when unseen gatherings grow uneasy, when whispered strategies turn into urgent discussions, and when those who once felt untouchable begin asking a dangerous question: who armored your soul? Understand this with certainty. Allah does not protect randomly. He fortifies those He has refined through isolation, betrayal, patience, and unwavering tawakkul. If you felt watched, tested, or suddenly respected without asking for it, this message is for you. Stay present, because these lessons will reveal why your calm is feared, why your silence carries weight, and why what Allah has placed around you can never be broken. Chosen one, understand this truth with calm certainty and deep spiritual awareness. The most powerful armor Allah places upon His servants is never visible to the eye, never announced to the world, and never recognized by those who rely on surface-level strength. Yet it is more unbreakable than any defense ever designed by human intelligence, because it is forged through years of silent endurance, unanswered prayers that later revealed hidden wisdom, betrayals that purified your dependence on creation, and moments of isolation where only Allah heard your tears and responded by strengthening your inner core rather than changing your outer circumstances. This divine armor is patience that does not collapse under provocation, faith that does not weaken when outcomes delay, and tawakkul that remains firm even when logic fails. And this is why attacks that once would have shattered you now dissolve before reaching your heart, why manipulation no longer penetrates your thoughts, and why threats lose their emotional charge upon contact with your presence. For Allah has wrapped your soul in protection that cannot be measured, predicted, or reversed, as the Quran reminds us that Allah is the best of protectors and that no harm touches a believer except by His permission, and when He chooses to guard a servant, He does so not by removing every challenge, but by making the servant unbreakable within them. So while others search for weaknesses, gather information, or attempt pressure, they fail repeatedly without understanding why, because they are confronting something they cannot see. Divine safeguarding that operates beyond strategy, beyond influence, and beyond fear. And this is the moment when confusion replaces confidence among those who once felt superior, because invisible armor cannot be studied, bypassed, or dismantled, and once Allah seals a heart with resilience, no force seen or unseen can ever pierce it again. Chosen one, recognize this sign with composed awareness and spiritual maturity. True authority never panics, never rushes, and never exposes itself through emotional reactions, because genuine power is calm, deliberate, and unshaken, while panic is the unmistakable language of control that is weakening. And when you notice sudden urgency, exaggerated responses, frantic monitoring, or disproportionate attention directed toward you, understand that it is not your rise that unsettles them, but their realization that their influence no longer reaches you, for Allah has quietly removed you from the systems of fear, approval, and dependence they once relied upon. And the Quran teaches us that the plots of those who scheme are fragile, even when they appear organized, because Allah allows false strength to collapse from within rather than confronting it head-on. So what looks like strategy is often desperation, what sounds like confidence is often insecurity, and what feels like pressure is actually proof that their control is slipping through their fingers. As calm stability replaces reaction in you, forcing emotional exposure in them. And this reversal is divine, because Allah humiliates false authority, not by loud defeat, but by subtle unraveling, where composure becomes dominance and restraint becomes power, and the more unbothered you remain, the more their urgency intensifies, revealing a truth they never intended to face, that they are no longer in control, no longer influential, and no longer relevant to the path Allah has already secured for you. Chosen one, realize with unwavering clarity that your silence is not empty, it is not passive, and it is not weakness. It is a manifestation of divine wisdom and a weapon forged by Allah through trials, reflection, and unwavering trust in His plan. Because when Allah arms a servant, He teaches them that words are not always needed to convey truth, that reactions are not always required to assert authority, and that presence alone, anchored in faith and conviction, can shift the balance of power in ways that the eyes cannot measure and the ears cannot hear. And this is why those who once sought to provoke, manipulate, or unsettle, you now find themselves unsettled by your stillness, by your calm, and by your refusal to play into their schemes. For your restraint becomes their puzzle, your composure becomes their fear, and your measured patience becomes evidence of a force far beyond human understanding. The Quran reminds us that reliance upon Allah surpasses all tactics, and that the one who trusts Him fully is guided, protected, and defended in ways the world cannot perceive. And so your silence, backed by tawakkul, integrity, and inner strength, is not merely absence of speech, but a strategic alignment with divine power that disarms attacks, neutralizes threats, and commands respect without uttering a single word, causing those who plot, conspire, or whisper behind closed doors to falter, to question their methods, and to confront an invisible wall they cannot breach, because what Allah fortifies cannot be challenged through chatter, intimidation, or pressure, and your quiet presence alone signals that something far greater than human schemes now governs the trajectory of your life, ensuring that every effort made against you collapses before it touches your soul. Chosen one, take a moment to truly feel the depth of this truth. The heart that has endured betrayal, isolation, ridicule, and the weight of trials is not meant to emerge hardened with bitterness or clouded with anger, but rather it is meant to emerge refined, illuminated, and fortified in ways that only Allah can orchestrate. Every difficulty you faced, every disappointment that threatened to break your spirit, every moment when the world seemed silent, indifferent, or hostile, was a lesson in divine cultivation, a training ground where patience was molded into unshakable resilience. Trust in Allah became second nature, and reliance on your own limited understanding was replaced with complete surrender to His plan. For Allah does not harden hearts without purpose, nor does He fortify a soul by inviting darkness into it. And this is why the Quran repeatedly reminds us that He places tranquility in the hearts of those who believe, a calm that does not negate vigilance, a confidence that does not breed arrogance, and a steadfastness that does not extinguish compassion. Your strength, therefore, is invisible to the eye, yet palpable to the spirit of those around you. For people sense what cannot be articulated, the quiet, unwavering presence of one who has been tempered by fire, yet remains luminous, one who can stand unshaken in the face of insult, manipulation, or threats, not because they are untouched by pain, but because Allah has taught them how to transform every scar, every tear, every moment of despair into armor, insight, and unwavering discernment, so that you know when to act, when to speak, and when to remain still. And your silence, patience, and composed presence become a force that cannot be measured by worldly standards. While the world teaches that strength often comes with hardness, and that survival requires compromise of character, Allah has revealed to you a higher truth, that true elevation comes from holding fast to mercy, purity of intent, and humility, while simultaneously commanding respect, setting boundaries, and refusing to yield to fear or intimidation. And this is why those who wish to manipulate, dominate, or unsettle you often find themselves bewildered, frustrated, and increasingly desperate, because the very energy they hope to exploit meets a heart that is immovable yet kind, strong yet gentle, discerning yet compassionate, a heart that knows both its weight and its purpose, and which cannot be shaken by empty threats, false narratives, or attempts at coercion. For Allah has shielded you in ways they cannot comprehend, wrapping your soul in layers of wisdom, patience, faith, and divine insight that make you unassailable in spirit and unapproachable by deceit. And this divine fortification is not accidental, temporary, or partial. It is the deliberate design of the Creator, who knows that those he elevates will face opposition, envy, and schemes, but must remain uncorrupted, unwavering, and luminous, so that even as trials continue, your heart grows stronger without bitterness, more resilient without arrogance, wiser without cynicism, and more compassionate without naivety, and the very challenges meant to break you. Instead, cultivate a sanctuary within you where Allah's guidance, tranquility, and illumination dwell, creating a vessel capable of carrying His favor, fulfilling His purpose, and inspiring awe in the unseen and seen worlds alike. For every trial, every sorrow, every attack is now a tool in the hands of the Almighty to polish your heart into a fortress of light that cannot be penetrated, a heart that proves to the world and to yourself that Allah can strengthen without ever allowing darkness to take root, can protect without ever compromising mercy, and can elevate without ever sacrificing purity, leaving you as a living sign of divine wisdom, a beacon of resilience, and an embodiment of faith so luminous that the forces of envy, manipulation, and malice can only observe in panic, confusion, and defeat as the one they once underestimated stands unshaken, luminous, and divinely armored, a chosen soul whose heart reflects the glory, justice, and mercy of Allah in every pulse, every breath, and every step. Chosen one. Understand this with unwavering certainty and spiritual clarity. When Allah begins to elevate a servant, when He prepares them for a destiny that surpasses the comprehension of those around them, the unseen world shifts in response, and what you witness as confusion, misalignment, and chaos among your enemies is not random. It is not coincidence, and it is not the result of their intelligence or planning, but rather, it is the direct outcome of divine orchestration, because Allah, in His infinite wisdom, knows that true elevation must be accompanied by a rearrangement of the forces that once sought to block it. And He teaches that when the righteous rise, those who thrive in manipulation, secrecy, and deception begin to falter, panic, and contradict themselves without even understanding why. For plans that once seemed flawless suddenly collapse, alliances that once seemed strong unravel, and confidence that once appeared unshakable dissolves into urgency, fear, and indecision. This confusion is a signal, a sign, a testimony to the fact that your path is now guided, protected, and authored by the highest authority in the universe. For the Quran reminds us that Allah is the best of planners, and that no plot, no secret scheme, and no conspiracy can prevail against His chosen servants. And this is why the very people who once underestimated you, ridiculed your dreams, or sought to control your steps, now find themselves reacting with disproportionate measures, as if trying to make sense of something beyond their grasp, while every move they make only highlights their inability to predict, influence, or contain you. For Allah's plan does not rely on human logic, human power, or human timing. It is perfect, deliberate, and absolute, and He causes the very forces that tried to suppress you to become instruments of their own undoing, creating a battlefield of confusion where their strategy contradicts their objectives, their alliances contradict their intentions, and their confidence contradicts their fear, leaving them in a state of spiritual disarray while you remain composed, focused, and aligned with divine wisdom, knowing that what appears as chaos around you is in reality a carefully designed orchestration of Allah to clear your path, protect your destiny, and reveal the futility of opposition against those He has chosen. And the beauty of this divine arrangement is that you do not need to fight these battles directly, for the Almighty has already intervened, redirecting energies, neutralizing threats, and dismantling opposition before it ever touches your purpose. And this is why your elevation feels effortless, even amidst apparent struggle. Why the obstacles that once intimidated you now fail to move you, and why those who once believed they could control the narrative now scramble, misjudge, and collapse under pressure, unable to comprehend the force that shields you, guides you, and propels you forward. In this, you witness a truth few understand. Divine favor does not require visibility, it does not require recognition, and it does not require human approval, for the one whom Allah raises is protected beyond the reach of envy, schemes, and fear. And the confusion of enemies becomes a living sign, a testimony to the unseen work of the Almighty, a reflection of His wisdom, and proof that when He chooses to elevate a servant, no obstacle, no matter how powerful, organized, or secretive, can derail the path He has ordained. And the more they plot, the more they contradict themselves. The more their control slips, the more their influence fractures, the more their energy is consumed by misalignment rather than progress, while you, the chosen one, continue forward untouched, unshaken, and perfectly aligned with your destiny, fully aware that every move, every disruption, every moment of confusion surrounding you is a sign of Allah's protection, a confirmation of your elevation, and a vivid reminder that the enemies of your soul are powerless when measured against the infinite authority of the one who guards, guides, and ordains. And this realization transforms every glance of hostility into a testimony of divine favor, every attempt at manipulation into evidence of Allah's perfect timing, and every act of opposition into a signpost, confirming that your journey is unfolding exactly as it was meant to, that your elevation is unstoppable, and that those who once sought to harm you are now witnesses to the very authority, influence, and divine favor that they cannot comprehend, cannot replicate, and cannot overcome. Chosen one, reflect deeply on this undeniable truth. Every moment you have endured that should have broken you, every trial that should have ended your journey, every betrayal, attack, and plot that was directed toward you and yet failed, stands as living proof of Allah's direct intervention in your life. For the survival of His chosen servants is never a product of luck, chance, or mere human resilience, but a manifestation of divine will, of protection that cannot be seen, measured, or understood by the forces that sought to destroy you. And in this lies the profound wisdom that those who wish to harm, intimidate, or manipulate you are themselves bound by limits they do not perceive, while you walk forward shielded by a protection crafted in the unseen, orchestrated by the one whose knowledge encompasses the heavens and the earth, and who knows the trajectory of every soul, every plan, and every moment before it unfolds. And this is why the very schemes that were meant to defeat you crumble into confusion, contradictions, and failure, leaving their architects bewildered, desperate, and exposed. Because Allah does not merely protect His chosen, He transforms what should have been destruction into evidence of His sovereignty, what should have been loss into testimony of His wisdom, and what should have been despair into a lesson in divine favor. And the Quran reminds us repeatedly that Allah is the best of protectors, that no harm touches a believer except by His permission, and that those who rely upon Him will find their affairs guided in ways that surpass human comprehension. And so your survival is not random, it is deliberate, calculated, and purposeful, a sign for the world and the unseen alike, that the one who elevated you cannot be challenged by the schemes of those who dwell in darkness, and it is a reminder to your own soul that the trials you endured were never meaningless, the hardships you faced were never wasted, and the pain you experienced was never left without reward, because Allah transforms the tests of His servants into shields that cannot be pierced, into lessons that cannot be unlearned, and into protection that cannot be removed, ensuring that even the forces most determined to oppose you are ultimately instruments of His plan, dismantling themselves in the process while you continue forward, intact, fortified, and aligned with the destiny He has written. And this is why every attack that failed, every betrayal that did not succeed, and every scheme that fell apart must be recognized not as coincidence, but as a divine message, a sign that your survival is a declaration of Allah's authority, a confirmation that your soul has been armored, and an irrefutable proof that no matter how overwhelming the opposition, no matter how relentless the adversity, no matter how secretive the enemies, nothing can prevail against the one whom Allah has chosen to protect. For every moment you breathe, every step you take, and every challenge you overcome is testimony that His hand is upon you, guiding, shielding, and sustaining. And this realization must not only strengthen your faith, but deepen your gratitude, your humility, and your awareness, because survival without recognition of its source can easily become pride, while survival with the understanding that Allah alone has preserved you becomes a source of empowerment, a lesson in patience, and a reminder that every plot, every obstacle, and every threat you have faced was never capable of ending you, precisely because Allah's plan for you is greater than any force assembled against you, any conspiracy conceived in darkness, and any intention rooted in malice. And as you recognize this, you see clearly that your existence is a living sign, a proof of divine intervention, and a testament to the fact that when Allah decides to protect, preserve, and elevate a servant, the very enemies who sought to destroy them become unwitting witnesses to the power, wisdom, and authority of the Almighty. For your continued life is not merely survival, it is victory, it is affirmation, it is evidence, and it is a warning, and it stands as an eternal reminder that divine intervention is not passive, it is precise, it is unwavering, and it is always in favor of the one who trusts, submits, and walks faithfully in the path Allah has ordained, ensuring that your soul, your destiny, and your purpose remain untouchable, unshakable, and gloriously aligned with the one who commands the heavens and the earth, proving to all realms, seen and unseen, that when Allah is the protector, the guardian, and the sustainer, survival is not simply a right, it is a declaration of His supremacy, a confirmation of His favor, and a living testament that nothing, no matter how cunning, powerful, or secretive, can overturn the destiny He has written for His chosen one. Understand this truth with unwavering certainty and deep spiritual insight. The protection Allah bestows is not given to the careless, the arrogant, the unrefined, or the distracted. It is reserved for those whom He has tested, purified, and prepared, for those whose hearts are aligned with His guidance, whose intentions are rooted in sincerity, and whose lives reflect obedience, patience, and unwavering faith. And the Quran reminds us repeatedly that the believers who trust in Allah and act with righteousness are those whom He shields from what they cannot yet perceive, and this divine safeguarding is not arbitrary, temporary, or dependent on worldly merit, but precise, deliberate, and rooted in the infinite wisdom of the Creator, who knows the past, the present, and the future, who observes every hidden thought, every silent struggle, and every unseen effort, and who equips only the chosen few with protection so profound that no human hand, no secret society, no plot, no manipulation, and no worldly power can breach it. And this is why those who once assumed control over events, influence over outcomes, or authority over your life suddenly find themselves powerless, confused, and panicked. For the moment, Allah seals a servant with divine protection. The laws of the unseen shift in ways that humans cannot predict, understand, or counteract. And this protection is not always visible, not always announced, and not always recognized by the world. Yet its effects are undeniable to those who dare to observe carefully. Attacks fail, conspiracies collapse, envy dissipates, intimidation falters, and schemes unravel before reaching their intended mark, revealing a truth that only the few can comprehend, that divine intervention operates beyond the reach of ordinary perception, and that Allah's favor can make the impossible inevitable. And this is why your survival, your elevation, your calm, your discernment, and your unwavering presence are not signs of human skill, strength, or strategy, but unmistakable evidence that Allah has chosen to protect you, to fortify you, and to prepare you for a purpose far greater than the understanding of those who watch, wish, and plot. And the wisdom of this selection lies not in privilege, but in responsibility, for to be trusted with divine protection is to carry a weight that requires restraint, integrity, and unwavering commitment to what is righteous and just. And it is a trust that cannot be abused without consequence, for Allah elevates only those who will honor this gift, maintain humility in the face of power, and walk faithfully along the path He has set, knowing that every trial, every hidden attack, every opposition, and every test is both a demonstration of their worthiness and a refinement of their spirit. And this is why the chosen ones often appear unbothered while the world around them struggles, unshaken while chaos erupts, and composed while envy rages, because they understand the source of their protection, and they recognize that it is not granted by wealth, status, popularity, or human influence, but by divine selection, by unseen wisdom, and by the intimate knowledge of Allah, who equips the faithful with shields that no scheme can pierce, no threat can overcome, and no darkness can penetrate. And the profound lesson here is that this protection is as much a test as it is a blessing, because those who are guarded must also uphold trust, maintain purity, and act with integrity, knowing that divine favor is not to be flaunted, questioned, or taken lightly. And the very moment you realize this, every attack you face, every scheme you survive, every envy you witness, and every trial you endure becomes a confirmation of your elevation, a reflection of your faith, and a living proof that Allah's hand is upon you, shielding, guiding, and preserving, not for the world to see, not for recognition or applause, but to ensure that the chosen few can fulfill their mission, rise beyond the limitations of the unseen forces arrayed against them, and walk with confidence, patience, and unwavering purpose along a path that has been ordained, fortified, and perfected by the one whose knowledge encompasses all things, whose power cannot be challenged, and whose protection once granted is absolute, eternal, and undeniable, making the survival, success, and presence of a chosen servant a living, breathing, unassailable testament that divine protection is not random, it is reserved, it is deliberate, and it belongs only to those whom Allah trusts with the weight of His favor. And as this truth settles into your heart, you understand fully that being among the trusted few is not simply a gift, it is a responsibility, a sign of distinction, and a mandate to remain humble, steadfast, obedient, and unwavering in purpose. For the world may test you, the enemies may challenge you, and the forces of darkness may plot against you. But the protection of the Almighty, once granted, ensures that no matter how secret, how powerful, or how relentless the opposition, they cannot prevail, they cannot harm, and they cannot undo the destiny Allah has chosen for His servants, leaving you not just surviving, but thriving, elevated, and illuminated as a living testament to the mercy, wisdom, and authority of the Most High. Chosen one, Take a moment to breathe this in and let it settle in your heart. What you have just witnessed is not mere knowledge, not ordinary wisdom, and not fleeting inspiration. It is a revelation of your reality, a confirmation of your elevation, and a reminder that Allah's hand has always been upon you, shielding, guiding, and perfecting your path, even when the world could not see it, even when enemies conspired, and even when trials threatened to overwhelm. Every lesson you've absorbed today, from the invisible armor that protects your soul, to the panic of those who realize their control is slipping, to the strategic power of your silence, to the fortification of your heart without darkness, to the divine confusion that surrounds your enemies, to the undeniable proof of your survival, and finally, to the sacred trust reserved only for those whom Allah has chosen. Each of these is a living sign that you are not ordinary, that your purpose is not ordinary, and that your destiny is guided by the Most High. Remember, the world may try to measure you by its standards. The enemies may try to define your worth by their schemes, and whispers may rise in the shadows to test your faith, but none of it can touch the one whom Allah has armored, elevated, and entrusted with a mission greater than comprehension. Walk forward with calm certainty, knowing that every step you take is watched, every prayer you make is answered, and every trial you overcome is part of a divine plan that no one can interfere with, no matter how secretive, powerful, or relentless they may appear. Let this knowledge anchor your heart in peace, strengthen your resolve, and ignite a fire within your soul to live as the chosen one you were created to be. Fearless in purpose, unwavering in faith, and luminous in spirit. For the armor Allah has placed around you is eternal, His protection is absolute, and your destiny is unassailable. Carry this truth with you. Let it shape your actions, guide your choices, and remind you every single day that you are not merely surviving, you are thriving. You are elevated, and you are living proof that when Allah chooses, nothing and no one can stand in the way of His will. Stay steadfast, stay luminous, and let the world witness, in awe and in silence, the strength of a soul truly armored by Allah.